Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here. Before we call our meeting to order, we're going to ask Scott Marsh to join us from Trinity Bible Church to lead us in our invocation. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. It's a privilege. May we pray together? Father, I was just thinking how, man, I'm so blessed to live here in this season, in this time with this leadership and in this community. So God, I ask your grace upon us. I pray for your wisdom and clarity for leadership in our community to be able to work in unity together to do everything that you want done. So this continues to be one of the greatest places and greatest times to live. And Father, I just ask that the God of peace be in this room today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you again, sir. We need to wait just a moment for the clock to strike 6:30, and then we'll get started with our meeting. Alrighty, it's 6:30 p.m. At this time, I'll call the meeting in order and announce we have a quorum present. All council members are in attendance this evening. Item 3 on the agenda is pledges of allegiance to the United States and Texas flags, and those will both be led this evening by Matt Tiskus.
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you for that, sir, and well done. Item 4 on the agenda is items of community interest. Mr. Hotab.
Got a few things. October 5th, next Tuesday, we'll have a food park lounge night at Heritage Park from 6 to 9. That's also where Texas celebrates National Night Out. And so police and fire will be going around to all the neighborhoods here in town that have an organized event there from 5:30 to 8:30. And council members, if you're interested in going, just let me know and we can organize for you to be with a police officer or a firefighter. Also, all those events are going to be listed on Weatherford Police Department Facebook page. We've got a promotional ceremony for Greg Lance. He's actually being promoted to Deputy Chief, and that'll be next Wednesday at Shandor from 4 to 5. And so if you're around, I encourage you to go to that. Weatherford Chamber has a breakfast before business next Friday at 7:30 at the Dawes, and we'll actually have that newly formed downtown group that'll be there with Lindsay Montgomery that'll be doing the presentation. And then the following Saturday, October 9th, there'll be Monster Bash at Heritage Park, and that's always a cool event. And they'll have a cover band there, La Freak, which is the world's greatest 70s band, they claim to be there. And so there'll be a costume contest, haunted hay rides, and several food vendors.
Great. Council, anything for items of community interest this evening? All righty, let's move on to item 5 on the agenda, presentations and proclamations. 5A is a proclamation naming October 2021 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. That'll be presented by Mayor Pro Tem Wilder. 5B, to follow that, will be presentation of the Texas Association of Municipal Information Officers Award for Social Media and Video Production. Council, would y'all, let's go down to the front here and do a proclamation.
The City Council of the City of Weatherford, Texas, hereby proclaims October 2021 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas the crime of domestic violence violates an individual's privacy and dignity, security and humanity due to systematic use of physical, emotional, sexual, psychological, economic control, and/or abuse, including abuse to children and the elderly. And whereas the problems of domestic violence are not confined to any group or groups of people, but cut across all economical, racial, and societal barriers and are supported by societal indifferences. And whereas the impact of domestic violence is wide-ranging, directly affecting individuals and society here in this community, throughout the United States and the world. And whereas in Parker County, since 1995, Freedom House, their staff, volunteers, and board members directly confront this local crisis with help from all law enforcement agencies, healthcare providers, and clergy, and other concerned citizens who are working together to aid in an effort to end domestic violence in our community. And whereas survivors of domestic violence themselves have been at the forefront of efforts to bring peace and equality to the home. Now, therefore, in recognition of the important work done by domestic violence programs, I do hereby proclaim the month of October 2021 to be Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the city of Weatherford, and urge all citizens to actively participate in the scheduled activities and programs to work toward eradicating domestic violence, improving victim safety, and holding perpetrators of domestic abuse accountable for their actions against individual victims and our society as a whole.
I just want to take this opportunity to thank everybody in the city for the support that they always give to Freedom House, and the support not only in each individual, but also every once in a while a little monetarily. But thanks a lot. We strive to make our community a safe community, and if any of you would like to see our facilities, just give me a call, and I'd be glad to give you a tour anytime. My name's Mary Lou Curry. Thanks much.
Item 5B on the agenda, Blake Rex Road.
Mayor Pascal, members of council, Blake Rexroth, Director of Communications and Marketing, and this evening I have Ms. Nicole Wright, the city's Communications and Marketing Coordinator, and we're pleased to come before you and make you all aware that the city of Weatherford recently was awarded 2 awards through the Texas Association of Municipal Information Officers, and Nicole has more information to detail that.
Good evening. So this year there was a record-setting 435 applications for these awards, and those are submitted by cities, counties, and health departments across the state, and there's 27 categories that you can place in. We received the Award of Honor, which is 3rd place, for our technical services under Best Use of Social Media for our Facebook Live show. So if anyone that doesn't know that, it's a weekly show that we do featuring department projects across the city, economic development projects, and rumor control items to help keep our citizens and businesses aware of what's going on in and around town. And then we also received the Award of Excellence, which is 2nd place for the public service announcement under the category of marketing for our Strong Community campaign, which we've been running for a few years now. That features different videos highlighting employees, but it also allows them to create their own Strong Community statement specific to what they do here with the city. So we won those awards. Oh, and the categories, sorry, real quick. The categories are broken up. So those 27 categories are typically broken up by population size. So it's usually 100,000 and under. And then the second category is over 100,000 in population size.
And I'm going to throw Nicole off. We don't get an opportunity too much to acknowledge our colleagues, and Nicole just want to acknowledge her in front of all of you. She was behind these two projects and the mastermind on these projects. So just give a thanks to her after the meeting if you can. I'd appreciate that. And that's all we have for you tonight.
Congratulations, well done. Item 6 on the agenda, council, is consent agenda items. We have items 6A through 6I. Is there any of those you'd like to entertain individually, or can we entertain them as a body? Hearing no discussion, I do see a motion for approval of all items by Mayor Pro Tem Wilder, second by Kevin Cleveland. Is there any discussion on items 6A through 6I before we call for a vote? Let's vote on them. Please indicate yea or nay at your convenience. Those items pass 5-0. We'll move on to item 7 on the agenda, which is regular agenda items. 7A is discuss, consider the city council holiday meeting schedule for November and December of 2021. Mr. Hotop.
We typically have 2 council meetings each month, on the second and fourth Tuesday, but in November, December, we have typically gone to just one, and so have a couple of dates that are included in your packet in the schedule to consider for possible meeting dates of November 16th for the November meeting and December 14th for the December meeting, and we will set the utility board meeting accordingly at the utility board this Thursday, but we'll submit those to you for consideration.
Council, any discussion on the item? Staff is looking for action to confirm the item. Motion by Jeff Robinson for approval is presented by staff, second by Matt Tiskus. Any discussion on 7A before we vote on it? All right, let's vote. Please indicate yea or nay. That passes 5-0. Item 8 on the agenda is future agenda items. Council, anything? Mr. Hotop.
In our first meeting in October, we will have the park dedication fee update for the council that Shannon will be presenting.
Anything else, sir?
No.
Council, let's move on down to item 9 on the agenda, which is executive session items. 9A is pursuant to Chapter 551 Texas Government Code VTCS, open meetings law in accordance with the authority contained in Section 551071, consultation with attorney. Number 1, pending or contemplated litigation on Encore Electrical Substation 3009 East, Bankhead Drive, City of Weatherford, Parker County, Texas. We'll go into executive session, or we'll adjourn here to leave for executive session at 6:42 p.m. We will be back in this room to entertain possible action on item 10 on the agenda. South Conference Room, please. All righty, we're back in regular session at 7:30 p.m. Item 10 on the agenda is next, 10A, to take action if necessary pursuant to Chapter 551 Texas Government Code VTCS, open meetings law, in accordance with the authority contained in Section 551071, consultation with attorney. Number 1, pending or contemplated litigation on Encore Electrical Substation 3009 East Bankhead Drive, City of Weatherford, Parker County, Texas. Council, do you desire to take any action on this item?
No, sir.
Seeing no action, we will move to item 11 on the agenda, which is work session items. 11A is to hold a work session to discuss the sign ordinance as it pertains to temporary signage. Caleb Kentner.
All right. Mayor and Council, you have requested that we come talk to you in regards to temporary signage. What I wanted to do to kind of preface this discussion is just in general talk about the sign regulations, what the city has the authority to be able to regulate, which is time, place, manner of signage. I've put together kind of our purpose for, that's included in our zoning regulations, which is pretty common. A couple of areas that we look for, and that's to protect the public safety and welfare, the need for a well-maintained and attractive community, and the need for adequate communication and advertising for our local businesses. In 2015, the Supreme Court ruled in Reed versus Town of Gilbert that a sign, when we look at signage and how we regulate signage, we have to be very cautious and careful in that. Signs cannot be regulated by its content, so we can only briefly glance at a sign to make a determination whether, for example, it's an on-site sign or an off-site sign. And so those are the things that we have to be careful about. And if our ordinance considers content-based, which if we say a type of sign, oftentimes that's considered content. We have to be cautious about that. There's a lot of sign ordinances that need to be updated that haven't been updated since 2015, action by the Supreme Court. And so we have to be cautious of that because that would violate the First Amendment of the Constitution. We have ours categorized into two categories for signs in Weatherford, which is temporary and permanent. And our focus tonight is on the temporary signs. We're going to talk about the three major categories because I think this may help answer questions as we talk about prohibited signs as well. But the other two categories is temporary signs that are exempt from permits, and there are temporary signs that require permits. So we'll talk about those categories. But first, the prohibited signs. These are signs that I bullet pointed through here as vehicles that may be painted or parked in for the primary purpose of providing signage unless otherwise allowed by code. Signs on fences, railing, gutters, fire escapes, signs attached to rocks, trees, shrubs, natural vegetation. Signs or objects that are inflated, such as balloons or other inflatables. Signs that are obscene, according to the Texas Penal Code. Any sign which may be confused with or obstructs sight distances, sight triangles, that could resemble traffic lights or traffic devices, or any sign that protrudes into the public right-of-way, which could also become a safety hazard. So all of those are those prohibited types of signs. When we come into the temporary types of signs, there are those that are exempt from signs, permits. We reference those as seasonal. Example, political signs, real estate signs, and holiday signs, all that we kind of lump in together with those. We do regulate the number of signs that you're allowed to have, the square footage, and where those can be located, so that time, place, and manner. We also limit the amount of days that are there. Temporary signs that are also exempt from permits include garage sales signs. We do regulate those, that they're not to be placed in the public right-of-way, on utility poles, same prohibitions that apply to all the sign regulations. We limit how early they can be put out, total on your property that you're allowed to have, and the number of directional signs that you can have pointing directions, which often I think is one of the areas where we receive a lot of complaints about, because some of these are located on private property, and as such, sometimes the city gets called, code enforcement, did we take the signs? Well, we didn't. The property owner that owned the property that you put the sign on took the sign down because they didn't want it on their property, and you didn't ask for permission for that sign to go there. And so there may be multiple people that may take down a sign, not only code enforcement. So Those are some of the issues that do pop up occasionally with temporary signs, particularly with garage sale signs.
So can you go back just real quick, question on that?
Yes.
So help me understand the areas that signs would be placed, either public right of way, on a sign, a utility pole, et cetera. If it's not in one of those, wouldn't it be on private property?
It does, and they have to, in order to put that, they need to get permission from the property owners to locate there.
Okay. And so if it's on private property, do we remove those signs or just on the one on the public right of way?
No, only in the public right of way. If they're located on private property and they didn't get permission, that property owner can remove them on their own. We don't go on to private property.
So that's very, very good to know, I think, as council members. Okay.
So, can I clarify that one more? So, you have a house and you have a real estate showing, and you want to get them to your real estate showing. You have the sidewalk here, and then there's just a little bit of grass before the street. Is the grass before the street considered an acceptable place to put a directional sign to get you to your house showing or whatever?
No, it's not typically. And let me give you an example. I'll flip forward here. This
So-
is on
and
our,
I'm sorry for being out of sequence here, but,
yes, on the sign and the application and display here, this kind of shows, we give this for temporary signs in commercial, those require permits. Because the signs like real estate signs, holiday signs, garage sales, there's no permit for them. So a lot of people don't ask where they can put them, they just go put them up. Because maybe they've seen them there before or some other reason. But typically, we will contact those owners and ask them, particularly like real estate signs, we'll notify the property owner that they need to move them behind the sidewalks. The area typically between the right-of-way, as you can see highlighted in this area, the right-of-way area is in red, which would mean no signs could be placed in those areas. And the yellow triangle area is a sight triangle at an intersection of two streets. And so that's a safety issue that's there depending on how high the sign is, and just a general distraction for drivers and pedestrians that may be crossing the sidewalks in those areas. So those are the areas that a lot of questions come up because they don't have to have permits for them. And oftentimes they do get put in the wrong place. We also caution people about that because we have irrigation that is located in those green spaces property owners do and things. So when they poke those garage sale signs in or any other type of signs, you can damage irrigation. And so that's why we really caution people on where they place those signs because property damage. So, but so I'm not going to go over too much on temporary signs as far as special events. Those are usually handled through the special event, and they do obtain permits that way. Temporary commercial and industrial zone that require permits, they're allowed 2 per business. We limit them to their size, their square footage, their area, and how long they can be out currently. And they're limited to currently the feather flag. You're allowed one of those and a regular banner. We do still require that they're not located in the public right-of-way. They don't become a safety hazard, that they're tightly placed so wind doesn't blow them off and we have a problem because they're blown across the street and cars are stopping. And so, and they're subject to the approvals process. And again, our big process is we want our city to be open for business. We want a clean and aesthetically a beautiful community. That's the goal in the zoning regulations. And we want to be safe, as well as balance the need for our businesses to advertise the things that they want to advertise and the things that they want to do. So there's a kind of a 3-way balance that we try to do with our zoning regulations as far as the signs go. Now, our sign regulations, from time to time with technology changes, do need to be updated. That's one thing that we've recognized with our sign regulations. It may be something, or at your request, we could look into updating some of these and ensure that we're in line with the court rulings and with best practice for us in the city of Weatherford. Any questions?
questions or comments?
So is this information, because one of the calls that I get the most is about signage, especially with garage sale signs. So if a citizen goes searching for this type of information, is it readily accessible on the city website? Or maybe not this specific, but the information can.
We actually, last year, we had a lot of questions in regards to garage, because we started, the request from the council, the direction we received was to be proactive in our code enforcement efforts. And we started that proactive, and we started receiving calls because, well, we were picking up those signs that were in the right of way or that were causing issues, or property owners were. So one thing that we did do is we actually put together a flyer particular for garage sales. We put it out on social media, and we put it out on the website that for garage sales, now it's accessible to you to know what you can do in a garage sale sign. It's one of the difficult ones because, you know, sometimes people decide on those, and a lot of times it's becoming more obsolete because of social media. A lot of people are doing their advertising social media now versus signs, which do clutter up our neighborhoods and things like that. And so there's a fine balance in there. We want people to be able to have those garage sales and do those things, but it's one of those very difficult ones to, well, how far do we go in that? And we have to treat all signs the same. So regardless, if we don't want signs in the right of way, it goes for all across the board. We can't selectively do those. So.
One thing, it'd be great if this presentation could be emailed out to council, just to have as a quick reference. And just as an educational tool, what I've left here today with is if you place your sign in a right-of-way, we might have picked it up. But if it's on private property, we did not pick it up. It could be a citizen, a homeowner, property owner, and council, you know, there are several, there's a couple of handfuls of citizens that drive around and self-police these signs in our community. They feel like that they're visual pollution and they're things that we don't need in our community. So a lot of the calls we've instructed through Mr. Hotop, the planning and development staff, to get a hold on this, and they've done that. But a lot of that has stemmed from citizen feedback that wants this to be monitored and handled a little bit better. So, but if we could email that presentation out, that'd be great, just to have for reference. Any comments, questions, suggestions from Mr. Kettner? Anything else? Thank you for your presentation. I've learned quite a bit, and I feel like we all have. So thank you, sir.
Absolutely. All right.
All right, council, let's go ahead and move down to item 12 on the agenda, which is citizen comments on non-agenda items. Anybody from the floor would like to come forward this time, speak on an item that we did not have on the agenda this evening? Now's your opportunity. Seeing none, we'll move to item 13 on the agenda, which is adjournment. Motion by Kevin Cleveland, second by Heidi Wilder. Any discussion, or we all want to y'all ready to vote on it? Let's vote on adjournment. Please indicate yea or nay. We stand adjourned at 7:44 p.m. by a 5-0 vote. Thank you so much for your time, council.